Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a pretty fascinating mystery hidden right inside today's devotional. We're going to crack the code on a very old story that honestly has a massive impact on who you are right now, and more importantly, who you're becoming. We're talking about the mystery of the Master's treasure and how it helps you unlock your very own talents.
But real quick, before we get to the actual story, I want you to just stop and think about this for a second. If someone walked up to you today and handed you a heavy, glowing treasure chest filled with something unbelievably valuable, what would you do with it? Would you run and show it off? Would you invest it so you could get even more? Or would you be so totally freaked out about losing it that you just hide it under your bed? Hold on to that feeling of holding something incredibly precious, because that is exactly what this story is all about.
All right, part 1, the Master's money. Let's look at Matthew 25.
So today's devotional points us to this amazing story where a really wealthy master is going on a long trip, and he decides to leave his massive fortune with his servants. But here's the thing. He didn't just split it all up evenly. Nope. He handed out his wealth based on what he knew each servant could handle. He gave one guy 5 talents, another guy 2, and the last servant just got 1. He knew their abilities perfectly, right? So he gave them exactly what they were capable of managing.
Now, the guys with 5 and 2 talents, they didn't waste a second. They immediately went to work. They traded, they hustled, and boom, they literally doubled their treasure. But the servant who got just 1 talent, well, he made a really strange, honestly kind of disappointing choice. The devotional notes that he went out, dug a hole in the earth, and just hid his Lord's money. He buried it in the dirt. He did absolutely nothing with it.
Which brings us to part 2. What are your talents? It's time to decode this treasure.
Okay, so right now you're probably thinking, well, I don't have bags of ancient gold lying around, so what does this actually mean for me? We need to decode what this treasure represents for a kid today. See, back in ancient times, a talent was a super heavy coin, literally a giant chunk of metal. But the devotional explains that for you and me, a talent is so much more than cash. Your talents are your intellect, like your amazing brain and how you learn. They're your affections, how you love and care for your family and your friends. It is literally your whole power. Every single ability you have is a treasure that is just on loan from God, entrusted to you to use.
And that leads to this incredibly powerful quote straight from the devotional. It says, "The knowledge of the truth is altogether too precious to be hoarded up and bound about and hidden in the earth." Basically, the devotional is telling us that hiding your smarts, holding back your kindness, or wasting your abilities, it's just as foolish as burying a fortune in the mud. You are walking around carrying precious truth and amazing potential, and it is meant to be shared, definitely not hidden away in the dirt.
Section 3. The power of your influence.
So when we actually take our talents out of the dirt and start using them, it creates this sort of invisible atmosphere around us. Think about it. Every choice you make, every word you say, it ripples out and affects the friends and family around you. And the devotional gives us a really important warning here. It says we have to watch out for cheap, light words. When we forget that our abilities actually belong to God, we can get pretty reckless. We might start joking around in a mean way, gossiping, or just being super negative. The text warns that this reckless influence actually molds the characters of the people we hang out with, bringing their minds down to a low level. Your words have incredible power, you guys. They can either build people up or completely drag them down.
In fact, the devotional uses some intense imagery here. It describes a reckless influence as being full of poison and malaria. It's like, imagine a cloud of toxic, sickening smog that just makes everybody around you feel worse. Yuck, right? But when we connect our influence to Christ, who is light and life, our atmosphere becomes fragrant, like fresh flowers, and totally pure. When you use your talents for good, you become like a breath of fresh air that literally helps your friends grow stronger and happier.
Section 4. Growing your small gifts. And spoiler alert, you don't need 5.
Now, you might be looking around at school or online and thinking, man, I don't have 5 massive talents. I'm definitely not the smartest or the fastest or the loudest. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. You absolutely do not need 5 talents to change the world around you. The text says that even 1 talent will be made fruitful. The devotional promises that God pronounces his blessing on unselfish, unwearied diligence, which is really just a fancy way of saying working super hard and not giving up. That means if you take your 1 small gift, maybe it's just being a really great listener, or just being helpful around the house, and you work at it diligently and unselfishly, God steps in. He takes your small investment of effort and he multiplies it. He makes it incredibly fruitful in ways you couldn't even imagine.
Finally, Section 5. What will you do? Let's talk practical application.
So,
We know that our minds and our influence are literal treasures from the Master, and we know that even the smallest effort is blessed. So how do we actually do this today? Well, the devotional gives us 4 clear, actionable steps. First, unite with Christ, because He is the source of all that light and life. Second, train and improve your abilities. Don't be lazy with your brain. Read, learn, practice. Third, aim for the highest possible standard. The devotional is very clear that we should refuse to let our Christian character be cheapened by acting poorly. And finally, use all of this to influence others to follow our example. Every advantage and every single opportunity you have is a chance to lead someone else toward the light.
I want to leave you with this final, super provocative question straight from the end of today's devotional. What are you doing with your talents? Are you putting them out to the exchangers? In other words, are you actively investing your time, your brain power, and your kindness to make the world better, or are you just burying them in the dirt? The Master has given you a very real treasure. It's time to start using it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see how you invest your talents today.